If you don't know me, I'm Nancy Hoffman-Vaniak, and I'm CEO of the Greater San Fernando Valley Chamber of Commerce. And we're very happy to present this webinar today on telling your story. It's a very important topic. I know a lot of people don't know how to tell their story about their business and even get it out in few, like the elevator pitch, those like 15-second, 30-second sound bites, including myself about the chamber. So we're really excited about Robin doing this webinar today. If you don't know our presenter, Robin Kellogg, has had a lifelong love with the written word. She grew up in New Jersey. She knew from a young age that she wanted to write. She turned that passion for writing into a BA in journalism from Rutgers University. In the late 80s, she relocated to Los Angeles, and by 2000, she founded her company, Robin Kellogg Associates, where she offers copywriting, content, and ghostwriting services to help small businesses tell their story, including the Chamber's business magazine, Business Matters, if you didn't know that. Her concept for a business began to take shape when she was writing for a corporate communications department years ago. She noticed that customers that were too small to hire in-house communications or marketing staff struggle to create their own content that reflects their values and their beliefs and their capabilities. So she started offering her writing services to small companies to put them on a more even keel with their competition. So now Robin improves how businesses market themselves by creating explicit, concise, and compelling content that tells their story, highlights their value, and outlines the benefits they offer, ultimately freeing them up from the responsibility of creating their marketing communications. Businesses can then target their audience better, grow their customer base, and strengthen their brand, which is why you're all here. So Robin is also the creator of Author Your Book, a course that provides writers a safe space to develop their books. She also published her first nonfiction book, A Life Put on Hold, under the pen name Evie Rosen in 2014. She has an ebook, 12 Steps to Better Business Communications, which she did in 2016. And her first novel was just published. It all began with Goodbye. And she has a book signing this weekend at Barclays Coffee in Northridge from 3 to 5 on Sunday. And we invite you all to join us there after the Chamber's ribbon cutting at 3:30 at Angela's Music Academy. It's okay. I just had to throw in the thing about the ribbon cutting because I forget myself. I have to remind myself I have to be there on Sunday. So Robin, take it away.
Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. Okay. And give me a second here because I need to get to the slideshow. Okay, so why is it important to tell your story? Because as human beings, that's how we remember information. From the time we're little and we hear fairy tales, we connect our memory with those emotions. And that even goes for businesses. So I'm going to share some online tools and examples of how to create a powerful, persuasive, and passionate company story. One that your customers will read and actually feel like they have a stake in it because they do. So we're going to talk about helping small businesses tell their story. All right. But before we do, and I didn't know that they were going to read a bio beforehand, so I'm just going to go through this rather quickly. Who am I? And so, and that is a Xeric picture I want you to know. So go Chamber. I'm a copywriter. I've been doing some kind of writing or editing for over 40 years now. I started this company back in 2000 when I was still at a corporate job. It was for a credit card processing company, and I was in the corporate communications department. And what I saw there was that a lot of the small businesses didn't know how to market themselves, and they were always calling up the office to get tips on things. And so when I first started this, it was a publisher, and then I transitioned it into copywriting. And I just want to help small businesses who feel like they're overwhelmed and they have no idea, like, you know, they can't afford to hire an agency, they can't afford to hire an inside person. I become their outside communications department. So I help them fill that gap. I'm an author, as Fiyumi said. I've published 3 books. I'm an instructor, so the class I've been doing Author Your Book since 2016, and I help people get to their first draft. It's done in a small group setting. And lastly, and this is a self-appointed title, I'm a hand holder. I've talked several people off the proverbial edge, and I'm passionate about helping people tell their story. So let's get started. I'm going to give you a brief outline of what I'm going to discuss. So we're going to talk about why telling your story is essential. Oh, and before I go into this, if there's any point where you don't understand something, write something in the chat or raise your hand, and I will try to answer it at that point, or you can wait till the end. It's up to you.
We'll moderate the questions.
Okay, all right. So why telling your story is essential. So as I mentioned, I want to provide you with tools to help you tell your story. And so why telling your story is essential is that it boosts your recognition, your authority, and it reinforces your company's core values, your mission statement, and your vision statement, because pieces of those should all be part of the story. It also helps you target your audience. So it boosts your, and when you target your audience, you want to be specific. So we probably all have more than one audience we're talking to. In my business, it's at least 2, if not 4, and I'm sure you guys do too. You can't give the same message to all your clients. So you want to be specific, and you want to make sure that you tailor your message to each of those different audiences. You know, some audiences may want to be approached with a more empathetic approach. So if they're, you know, if they're in a social worker, a psychologist, someone in who's a chiropractor, whatever, they might appeal to have an appeal to a story that has more emotion, that evokes more emotion in it, and somebody else may not. So you just have to know who you're talking to. Okay. Controlling the narrative. It's really, really important to control your company's story. You don't want Joe Blow down the street, who's your competition, telling people who you are and what you do, because it's never going to look good. You want to make sure that you get that story out first and you have control over it. And finally, I'm going to give you guys step-by-step guide to creating your unique business story. So let's get started. Okay, why is storytelling essential? Because we're wired to remember the stories. We form connections in our brain and learn to remember stories because of the emotions attached to it, as I mentioned before. When you can take a compelling story that makes people think or feel or want to act, you become part of their circle, and that's important. You want them to see you as somebody who has similar values to you, similar, or the expert who has solved their type of problem. Okay, so telling your story tells your audience who you are. So just like in the fairy tales, the Big Bad Wolf and Red Riding Hood, Hansel and Gretel, and Sleeping Beauty, your company's story acts as a connection to your customer base on an emotional level. What is your why? What's your passion? Why did you start this business? What are the values behind it? What do you want your customers to know about it? And how can you present it best to them? And then how can you solve their problem? Just like we all waited until the end of the fairy tale to find out who won, our clients are waiting to see how we can solve their problem. They want to know what's in it for them. They don't really care about how you do it or the process you take. They just want to know the end result. And finally, Telling your story tells your clients why you're the best choice for the job. Because let's face it, we all have competition. There's always someone down the street who does something very similar to what we do. So it's a matter of really looking at what differentiates you from your competition. What do you offer that your competitors don't? Okay, what are the immediate effects of telling your story? Well, it brings attention to your business. And it allows you to show potential customers how your business fits into their lives, which is essential. It introduces what you do to potential customers. So it opens the possibility that you may be the person they're just looking for. True story, when I first started advertising my Author Your Book course through the Chamber during COVID, the Chamber sent it out, and somebody who received it passed it on to their friend who they knew wanted to write a book. Well, that person's been working with me ever since 2020. So when somebody feels invested, that helps them develop trust with you, and they see you as the expert, and it kind of just all adds up with each other. And as Steve Rydeen said yesterday during Thirsty Thursday, you never want your customers to say, "I didn't know you did that." Right? You want them to know exactly what you do. It highlights your business values, your mission, and your vision. Because, as I said before, these things should all be part of your company story. It provides your company with credibility and authenticity, just like the Yellow Pages or having a storefront did years and years ago. Being able to tell your story and connect with your customers on an emotional level provides credibility and authenticity to you. Is this all making sense so far? Okay. What are the long-term effects of telling your story? Well, it makes you the expert, which is what we all want, right? By showing your customers, you're keeping them informed, and in many cases, that you care about the same things they do, you become the trusted expert in their eyes. And if you're their trusted expert, they're not going to go anywhere else. They're going to call you. So it makes you the expert. It strengthens and deepens your relationship with your customers and employees. And yes, I did say employees, because when you're not there, your employees, either on the phone or in person, are the face of your company. And if they aren't familiar with your company story or understand your mission, values, and your vision for the company, they're not going to be able to relay it to customers, and that's a problem. And finally, you become the litmus test for others in your industry. So remember the litmus test? We all did it in chemistry class in high school. We were checking for alkalines and acids. Well, not exactly the same, but we're not testing for chemicals this time, but we're testing for ethics and product or service quality and community involvement. And you want to be the one person that people compare your competitors to. You don't do that? So-and-so does that. That's what you want. Okay, how does storytelling have a direct effect on your business? So here are some research stats that you may be interested in. Research shows that a 5% retention rate for information can jump to a 65 to 70% rate with a story. So just giving facts sometimes isn't enough. Storytelling increases the value of products by up to 2,706%. Now, I could not verify this, but it definitely does improve the value. So even if you get 100% approval, that's still good. Customers who are drawn into your story are 55% more likely to consider buying from you. That's a big deal. Any questions so far? Okay, now for the emotional connection, because that's what I keep talking about, right? So people remember stories, not facts. Now, what you'll see is a lot of people in their company stories will couch facts in there because people can swallow that pill much more easily if they feel you're telling them a story. So it's okay to use the facts, but you want to just make sure you know your audience and how to tell them that story. So stories trigger our emotions, and it just helps, if you take the communication data plus a story around it, it satisfies both the right and left brain thinking, and it just helps ignite your audience to act, to do something. Next to audience relevance, so your story should always be relevant to who you're talking to. A compelling approach to storytelling is the second most valuable tool for good content. So not only do you have to know who your audience is, but you have to know what kind of story they're going to relate to. And 71% of customers buy from companies whose values align with theirs. So most companies now, especially the larger ones, will even list their core values on their website. And they do this, Whole Foods has done it in the past. I haven't been to their website for a while, but there's a lot of companies who do that because they want you to go there. They want you to say, oh, they're, involved in the community. That's good because that's important to me too. Or, they sell healthy food, or, whatever it is, they need your buy-in. Okay, so we really need to define that audience. So who are your customers? Okay, this is really important to nail down because it helps you so much easier. It just makes it so much easier to write the story. So we all have different clients, and it depends, on your product line or services, or on how you approach them. But you want to know basic stuff like, are they male, female? Are they educated? What is their education? What's their household income? Are they coming to you because they want to save time? Or are they coming to you because they want to save money? And a lot of times you have to ask. So what are their expectations, wants, challenges? So have you sorry. Okay, so have your customers told you in conversation what their immediate challenges are? And if they haven't, you just have to ask. And that can mean polls online, that can mean emails, or even, as Nancy does, the back of name tags, because she wants to know what chamber members think about certain subjects. So how can you solve their problem? What do you have in your products or services that will turn things around for your customer and solve that problem? One thing to consider is to offer stories about clients who have had similar issues and how you've been able to resolve them. And how will that fit in with your client's expectations? Because just because you can solve your client's problem in your mind doesn't always mean they think the same thing. So you have to ask what their expectations are after you've solved their problem, because that also allows you to determine if their expectations are realistic and achievable. So you want to make sure that you can actually help someone before you help them. Okay. Am I explaining this well? Are you understanding what I'm talking about here? Yeah?
I think so.
Okay. Okay, so controlling the narrative. There's a Hopi Native American proverb that says, those who tell the stories rule the world. And there's another proverb that you probably heard that history is written by the winners. So that's why, it's preferable to craft your own story than to hear somebody else tell it. You don't want a disgruntled customer telling it. You don't want Joe Blow down the street telling it. So how are you presenting your business to clients? Are you grabbing them on an emotional level? Are you explaining what your values are because you know they're important to them? Your story is unique unto you. And that's why it's important to know how to tell it. What impressions do you want your clients to walk away with? When the project is done, what feeling do you want them to have? This is a question I also ask people in my book classes, because I say to them, okay, there are your goals for the book, but what are your goals for the reader? What do you want the reader to get out of it once they complete that book? So whatever it is, you want to tell the story that is going to evoke that response. So if you want them to take some kind of action, you want to somehow portray that in the story. Okay, how can you make sure your version of the story takes the lead? Because you want to control the narrative. Well, one way is to just be proactive. You want to write your story the way you want the world to view it. And you want to do several versions, because you have your website, you have social media, you have emails, and you may have to tweak it for each of those, because especially anything online will have limits as to the number of words you can have. So I always suggest creating a long story, and then you can kind of cut parts out of it for the smaller one where your smaller posts. So watch your language, please. So you have to adjust the tone and the words you use to your customer sensibilities. So here's what I mean by that. You don't want to use, if you have customers who maybe English isn't their first language, you don't want to use something that they're going to be baffled about. Or if you have customers that aren't in your industry, you don't want to use certain things. So here are some rules to follow. You want to avoid technobabble. We all have it in our industries, especially in tech. Because A, our customers are not at all interested in it. And B, they're going to shut down if they don't understand the conversation. Just speak English and they'll get it. Also, the next one is the same goes for acronyms. So if you're going to use an acronym, spell it out, put it in parentheses afterwards, and then you're free to use the acronym thereafter. But that first time, you can't assume that somebody understands what it means. Again, back to non-English speakers, I had something myself. I've started this writing group online that's free for the community. And one of the people online a few weeks ago was not a native English speaker. And I used a phrase that she just couldn't get her head wrapped around. And it was, when one door closes, another one opens. And it was my ignorance, because I didn't realize that was going to be an issue. So just really, really be careful about those things. And again, don't give your clients a pile full of details, because in the end, all they really want to know is what you can do for them and how you're going to solve their problem, and how you're going to solve it so that it causes them the least amount of pain. Okay, so communicating with your customers should not feel like a free fall, but a controlled and coordinated effort. So, putting together your company story, you're piecing together these different elements. And, even when you try to solve a customer's problem, you're piecing together elements. And so by having a story that incorporates that, it's a little easier to explain it to your clients. Okay, so now for some building blocks to creating your story. Okay, so a strong headline is absolutely so important, and I'll explain why. And it can be your best friend forever, because people sometimes just slap a headline down and they think it doesn't matter, and they've just like wasted their time with the company story. So David Ogilvy, who is the founder of Ogilvy and Mathers, a very prestigious advertising agency, said on average, oh, what did I just do? Okay. Said on, okay, let me get back to that. Hang on a second, people. Okay. Okay, he said that on the average, 5 times as many people read the headline as body copy. So when you've written a good headline, you've spent about 80 cents out of your dollar. So you can connect this directly to your bottom line. Okay, so did you know? So here's just some facts about that. Google suggests using headlines no longer than 65 characters, and that includes spaces, which translates to about 6 to 7 words. And they do that because research has shown them that people remember the first 3 words and the last 3 words of a long headline. They don't remember the in-between. So because most of us do use longer headlines, make sure that the words in between are not as important as the bookends they're between. Okay, the average person will devote 3 whole seconds to reading your heading, that headline. 3 seconds. You have 3 seconds to grab their attention and get them to say, hey, I need that, or hey, I need to hire them. And that's not a long time. So you want to spend some time on the headline. And I'm going to give you some tools for that. And if people, research shows if people don't get pulled into your headline, there's only a 20% chance that they will continue reading your story. Okay? So you want to make sure that headline is going to get to them. Okay, creating your headline. So here's where we get into the nitty-gritty, but here are the elements you need. So you need to know what's your angle. This is what your perspective or your hook is for the story. How are you going to draw your customers in? You want to always highlight the benefit and not the feature. So when you're writing your story, your value should be expressed by the features that it provides the clients, how it's going to solve their problem. I'm sorry, by the benefits it provides the clients, and not the features that your product or service offers or the investment you have made to be able to offer it. Nobody cares that you paid such and such for some piece of equipment or for taking a course to become more educated. They just expect that from you as their expert. You want to use action and powerful words. So you want to use active verbs like accelerated or accomplished or caused. And you want to use adjectives like adventurous, enchanting, or excited. You can find lists of these things online if you Google it. And then you want to invoke emotion. You want a visceral response from your client, good or bad. And you want to include keywords. Some keywords are also in your main copy, but keywords are important. So this is either one of your keywords or your keyword phrase, which is also called a long tail keyword. You want to make sure it's in there, especially for anything online, because when you're online, SEO starts taking over, and you have to be concerned about that. If it's just for offline, then doesn't really matter unless you want your clients to connect with those keywords. And then length and tone. Again, this is going to depend where you're displaying your story. And so the tone is just the words and the way you present them for your clients. So, again, you have to know who they are. And the length will vary according to where you place your story. So Facebook has different things than Instagram, that has different things than your website might. Going back to that 65 characters, if you Google something and your website comes up and you have over 65 characters, you'll notice that the search engine has truncated the line. Okay, so you'll only see those first few words. Sorry. Okay, so here I realize that some people like formulas and some people like more of the Mad Libs like I do, where it's fill in the blanks. So I'm giving you both. So here are a few headline formulas with a proposed headline that would result from that. So there's numbers plus adjective plus target word plus rationale, and then promise, and you get 7 essential strategies for effective communication, proven techniques for improved relationships and successes. The next one is any number plus a tactic, a method, ways to improve, and you get 3 savvy tactics to increase demand gen effectiveness. And then the final one is try plus an offer plus free. So try Redcon 1 free, training and recovery. Okay, that makes sense so far? Any questions? All right, so, and then here are, and here are the Mad Libs, as I call them. So the first column shows you what type of headline it is. The middle column tells you what you have to fill in to make it work for you. And the last column gives you an example of what it might be. The 3 I have up here are examples of much more, which I will also put on the cheat sheet so that you can go to the website and look at them yourself. I think there are 70 something. I did not want to put them all on slides, so. But this gives you an idea of another type of formula for your headline. Okay, so here are some free tools that I've used in the past. And again, I will put this on the cheat sheet. I like the AMI Institute, the AM Institute program, because it not only gives you an option to rate the emotional value of your headline, but it allows you to rate your content also. So I use that quite often. There's also What Is It WP, which is also a great headline analyzer, and it looks, it really focuses in on the CEO in the headline. And then the last one I list here is something I've used off and on, Capitalize My Title, and it's also a headline analyzer. Again, there are a lot of these online if you Google it. These are free. There are others that are free for a while and then you pay for it. It just depends what you're looking for. And so when I'm writing several headlines for something, I'm putting it through these generators because I want to see like what they, what it comes up with. Oh, I came up to that. Okay, I don't want to do that. Where are you? How do I get that? Oh. Okay, Fiumi, I need your help with something.
Okay.
Oh, wait,
happened?
hang on, I have it. No, it's okay, I'm just gonna go back to here. I had the link and so it went to the headline analyzer.
Okay. We couldn't see that. We could only see your
Oh,
slideshow.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Okay, so you want a strong start. And so once you have your headline, you want to make sure that first paragraph really grabs at your client's challenges, fears, or annoyances, or about that it's about your purpose and your company's successes. Because again, you want to make sure that people are going to read past that headline and that first paragraph. So I'm going to provide you with some formulas of things that you need for 6 different ways of telling a story, okay? So here's the first 3 formulas. There is problem, solution, and outcome, hero's journey, and before and after bridge. So I don't know how big, okay, I have to put this on slideshow again, sorry. I got off track here. Okay. No, that didn't help. Slideshow. Okay, well, it's not going back on slideshow, so I'm just gonna keep it here. But
Fine.
what?
I say it's fine.
Oh, it's
Yeah,
fine.
you're good. You're good.
Okay.
Yeah.
So these all tell you the steps you need to take for each of the ways of presenting these stories. And I'll provide this again on the cheat sheet. And then there's the who, what, and why story, which just, it's very good for an IT company or something because it just gives you the facts. There's the emotion, credibility, aspiration, and then there's problem, agitation, and solution. So in order to get you to really understand how these templates might be used for your story, I have gone and taken examples from chamber members of the hero story, the before after bridge, and who, what, and why formulas. So for the hero story, I have a story that Dr. Neil Miller has on his site, and I thought it was extremely powerful. The second example I'm going to give is the bridge after the before and after bridge, and that is an example from Haven Hills, because they just they really explain what they do in very few words. And the third example is from Team Logic. RT, are you on here? And Team Logic, I thought, really was a good example of who, what, and why format. So here we go. So Neil's story just grabbed me from the beginning. I mean, he really gives you a description of who he is. He began as a personal chef and working in all these restaurants, right? So how the heck did he get into, to traditional Chinese medicine and acupuncture? Well, the pivotal moment comes when he has a severe automobile accident that leaves him paralyzed on one side. He has headaches and he stutters, okay? And the doctors finally threw up their hands and said to him, look, we don't know what else to do for you. So then the impact of that comes when Neil and a friend leave the hospital, and his friend stops at an acupuncture clinic. And Neil finds that he's recovered 80% of his speech and his headaches were gone after the first treatment. And then after 2 weeks, he was back to normal. And so when you read this, you now understand why he went into Chinese medicine and acupuncture and why he's so passionate about it. And why sometimes he feeds you when you go to his office. So that's where his whole career came in from. So the bridge after bridge, as I mentioned before, is Haven Hills. So they tell you that they lift up survivors of domestic violence. They don't go into detail about what these people have to endure, but you certainly get when somebody says domestic violence, you get the gist of it, and you can imagine that for yourself. And then they tell you what they offer, and they're offering shelter, crisis intervention, counseling, advocacy, and activities supporting these people, so that they can remake their lives. And how does their business fill that gap? Well, they give them tools to work with. They help them find the strength through using the intervention, the advocacy, the activities to break the cycle of abuse and to build a new productive and joyful life for themselves and their children. So I thought in just a short paragraph, you really do get the feel of how Haven Hills can repair people's lives. And the next one is who, what, why. And so RT, I chose Team Logic because I really liked your story on your page. And the who, what, why is more factual based, but it does have some emotion involved there because it talks about values. So, they tell you who they are, and they tell you, specifically what type of provider they are, and they differentiate themselves from their competition. And then they also describe, they say, unlike many managed service providers, we focus on business and technology. Okay, so we understand that not all organizations are alike, and we work hard at delivering solutions tailored to your unique business goals and challenges. Our philosophy is we work with you the way we'd want someone to work with us. Okay, so they're telling you what their core values are right there. Okay, and most people who read this, who aren't techie people, are going to go, wow, they really get me. And then finally, they tell us about how these values back it up. So they tell us that their customer oriented approach drives the tenets of their business, which are reliability and expertise and trust. And they ensure that you have an IT partner for the long haul, right? Nobody wants to keep changing IT companies. It's too involved. So I just thought that was a really great example of the who, what, why, RT. So give yourself a pat on the back. Okay, so you may have wondered why I haven't mentioned call to action, or maybe you didn't. So call to actions are usually at the end of almost all your communications, except for when you have about pages on your website. So that's like the one exception. So when you write your story and it's going on your website, but if you're using elements of this story to get people to take an action, like join us, contact us today, reserve your seat, if that's the outcome you want, you have to tell them. There's an old speaker's formula that says, if you want to grab your audience, you tell them what you're going to tell them, then you tell them it, and then you tell them what you just told them. So leading to that, I'm going to give you a wrap up. So we talked about why your story is important, why you have to know who you're speaking to, and how you want them to react. You have to control the creation and the dissemination of your story. And you got step-by-steps on how to create that unique business story. So I hope that it has answered some of the questions you have. If you have more questions, I'm more than happy to answer them. And thank you. This is my contact information.